Hey guys, it's your tired teacher again, and I'm here with part 3 of our discussion on the Gilded Age. Today we're going to be focusing mainly on governmental policy towards wealthy industrialists and, fostering that growth of business during the Gilded Age. We're going to be talking about philosophical ideas such as social Darwinism and as well as the gospel of wealth. We're going to be retouching on that as well, and possibly diving into some of the technological advancements of the Gilded Age. So this is part 3 of probably part 4 in our series about the Gilded Age, and then we will move on to immigration and urbanization, because that is also another important tenet of the Gilded Age when it comes to cities up north and in the Midwest. So, okay, without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and break this down. So, reviewing just a bit. All right, remember, Gilded Age, well, rather this time period of 1865 to 1900, is going to be very regionally based. We had talked about Reconstruction already happening down south, and then what subsequently happens later on is this era known as the New South, where the South starts to slowly industrialize again. But what plagues the South is its racial construct. Racism is prevalent in these areas, starting off in Reconstruction with the Black Codes, the Redeemer governments taking hold again, KKK violence sweeping across the South, systems like sharecropping and tenant farming, keeping the freedmen in this sort of economic servitude. Also, to further keep the newly freedmen from gaining any sort of political advancement, there is poll taxes, literacy tests, always the threat of lynching when trying to exercise these political rights, and of course, stuff like Jim Crow laws, segregation, and the court case Plessy versus Ferguson will further solidify this construct. And it won't be until the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s where we'll see the breakdown of this system. But for a good 100-year time span at the very least, African Americans in the South are still going to be suffering. So some do move over to the West. Remember, the Exodusters did move over to take advantage of the new opportunities that the West had at its disposal. Many people moved out west following the development of the Transcontinental Railroad. It was a lot faster, a lot easier, a lot safer, a lot cheaper, traveling that way than, just trekking it through the Conestoga, with a Conestoga wagon through stuff like the Oregon Trail. So, other things that would kind of captivate people across the nation about the West was, they would hear these tales of cowboys and cattle tribes, and, these tales of people striking it rich, doing gold and silver and copper mining out west. These tales of the Plains Wars against Native American tribes, and, the readily available land thanks to the Homestead Act, where the government would give you 160 acres of land just so you could farm it for 5 years, and it's totally yours for free. But this movement out west did plague the Native American populations, and they were oftentimes on the receiving end of a lot of violence towards them. Massacres like Wounded Knee, Sand Creek would plague the native populations, along with the decimation of the buffalo, thanks to further westward expansion and the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. But towards the tail end of the West, we're going to come back around to them, because this notion of populism is essentially Western homesteaders rising up and fighting against this corrupt system that we hinted at last time when we started our real discussion on the Gilded Age and how robber barons were essentially running the show without any sort of rules or regulations put on place of them. So these robber barons were so easily taking advantage of the system, and we had widespread corruption both politically and economically. And this corruption did not stop at just taking advantage of the people and the workers, but it also went up the rungs of governmental structure both at the local, state, and national levels. So this brings us to today's topic. We're going to be talking about laissez-faire capitalism, social Darwinism, and like I said, we're going to come back around to stuff we kind of hinted at last time, which is the gospel of wealth, rugged individualism, this whole notion of rags to riches, and we're going to hit up some technological advancements of the Gilded Age. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight away with this. Now, first thing we're going to talk about is something that really triggers a lot of people when they actually hear about it. There's no really easy way to say this, so let's just dive in. Okay, part of this comes from this whole notion of laissez-faire. All right, we remember laissez-faire back from, when we're talking about Jefferson, and even further when we're going to Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations. It's this whole approach by government to basically leave business alone. Just don't interfere in it. Let the natural course decide, whatever is going to happen in business. Let the markets decide, right? So this approach, of course, is going to be so embraced by wealthy industrialists because they're going to be like, yeah, leave us alone. Because they don't want any regulations against them. Come on now. If you put rules on these robber barons, they won't exactly get to be as rich and powerful as they did become because of this system. So, when we have this system in place, laissez-faire, to leave alone big business and let it do what it wants, we also see another form of philosophical thought that supports the wealthy industrialists and, gets them to sleep better at night, honestly. So, here's where people get triggered. They get triggered with social Darwinism. So, okay, you guys have heard of the term survival of the fittest. Now, yeah, a lot of people attribute that to Charles Darwin, which is false. Honestly, it was this guy who came up with it, Herbert Spencer. So, Herbert Spencer is from England, and, he actually comes up with this social construct for Darwin's theory of evolution. He takes Darwin's findings and applies them to society. So, social Darwinism essentially goes hand in hand with this laissez-faire style of capitalism that is going on in this country at this time. So, Herbert Spencer is going to believe that competition amongst business was the law of life, much like, the competition we see in nature, pretty much, of the stronger creatures in nature basically dominating over the weaker ones, right? So this whole notion of survival of the fittest, he's gonna apply it to the wealthy industrialists. He's gonna basically say, yeah, these guys are fit. These guys are the top of the food chain here. And everybody else is kind of on the bottom and poor because, they just don't possess those qualities that make them fit. So, essentially, Herbert Spencer is going to say that, yeah, this is genetically passed on through, from parent to child. So, the fittest people will inherit the best qualities, such as intelligence, the desire to own property, ability to accumulate wealth, and so on and so forth. So, pretty much, the unfit are going to pass on these qualities of laziness, stupidity, and immorality. So essentially, this guy would basically tell you, if you're poor, it's because you're unfit, and yeah, you're inherently lazy, stupid, and immoral because of your parents. So, alright, we're not triggered yet, okay? We'll just wait. Herbert Spencer is also going to be like against stuff like government aid to the poor because he thinks that this goes against the evolution of society. Because after all, remember, the poor are unfit. Only the fit shall basically survive. Alright? Now, okay, brace yourselves, guys. Dude, if there's ever anybody I want to punch in the face, like in history, it's this guy. Just saying. Sorry, YouTube. Yeah, this guy's an ass. But okay, let's see why. So, Herbert Spencer, of course, okay, we already established this. He opposes government aid to the poor because he believed it bred immorality. Now, okay, he's also against the public school system because it's going to force taxpayers to pay for the education of other people's children. Okay, so he doesn't want an educated society because it's going to infringe on your pocketbooks? Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, it gets better. So, he's also going to oppose laws regulating housing, sanitation, and health conditions because they interfered with the rights of property owners. Alright, so this guy is opposed to any sort of building codes and standards because it would inconvenience the property owner's rights. Okay, so if this guy had his way, there'd be no like fire escapes or like, any sort of safety codes on buildings. Good God. Okay. Alright. Check out this next one. Disease was the punishment for the ignorant and should not be tampered with. If you guys could see my face right now. Oh, I swear, I've been teaching this for years, and this guy still makes me want to punch him in the face. Just, yeah, somebody go back in time and, punch this guy in the face for me. Okay. Let's continue. Because, yeah, you got diseases like cancer because, you're ignorant and it's your punishment. Alright, tangent. Well, let's move on. Not everybody's an ass during the Gilded Age. Just there is some hope, guys. Okay. He's against most taxation because it interfered with the natural evolution of society. Alright, so this guy doesn't want to support any government programs either. Okay. He advocates a laissez faire system where there's no government regulation of private enterprise. Yeah, that's not surprising that he supports that. Alright, well, let's go with this next one. Spencer was against any legislation that regulated working conditions, maximum hours, and minimum wage because it interfered with the property rights of the owners and employers. Labor unions also took away from the freedom of individual workers to negotiate with employers. So labor unions take away freedoms from workers to negotiate with employers. Isn't that essentially what labor unions do? They help employers and employees come to agreements and act on the employees' behalf for negotiations with the company or entity that they work for. Wow. Okay. And then, of course, the working conditions, maximum hours, and minimum wage. Oh, God. Okay, so this guy would rather have many industrial accidents because it goes with the natural order of things and infringes on property owner rights. Oh, now you guys know why I want to punch this guy in the face. To add insult to injury, guys, he has sometimes been credited with creating the one invention I would probably take back with me during this time, the Gilded Age, because it's so easy to reproduce and replicate yourselves. If I had my way, I would take back the paperclip. Check this out. It's genius because, seriously, you could just bend wire into the shape of a paperclip and be like, oh, here, let's keep your papers together. And boom, you copyright it and put a patent on it, and there you go. Instant freaking success. God, if this guy like came up with a paperclip, seriously, like, yeah, somebody go back in time and just bring the paperclip before him, and yeah. Oh, well. If you guys are curious, like, how this guy went out, I think he actually went out to like, dementia. So, karma? No, I don't know. Dementia's terrible anyways, so no. Let's not even go there. But, okay. Alright, continuing this train of thought, we got the American version of Herbert Spencer, which is William Graham Sumner. He's also going to argue that social progress depended on the fittest families passing their wealth to the next generation. So he's more on the extreme side of the laissez faire philosophy we just discussed. And yeah, the government should just butt out of the economy. Economy should be guided by natural laws, so okay, that's very Adam Smith of him. Regulation of any sort hinders on the evolution of civilization. Yeah. Humans are born with different capacities, and the weaker would be eliminated naturally. Again. And he hated reform groups because they interfered with all this stuff. So, yeah. Social Darwinism. Okay, let's get to the good philosophies, guys. The ones that people don't want. You don't want to punch these people in the face. Alright. Certainly you don't want to punch Andrew Carnegie in the face. Come on now. He looks like a Grandpa Santa Claus. Anyways. So, Andrew Carnegie, remember, he has like this turn of events in his life. And, as he grows older, he's like, yeah, I should help out people with my money. Him and John Rockefeller are both going to have a change of heart as they get older. And, Rockefeller's going to say, God gave me my riches. So he donates a whole bunch of it. He's a big philanthropist, as is Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie takes it a step further, and he's like, comes up with this whole like gospel of wealth where he's essentially telling his fellow rich industrialists, hey, donate your money, help out society. Why not? So, Andrew Carnegie is basically saying, yeah, God has given people like him the responsibility to carry out these civic philanthropic works and benefit society as a whole. So, yeah, public library system, like we were talking about, is his deal. And the picture that you see down there on the bottom right-hand side was the Carnegie Library in Houston, which in typical Houston fashion has torn down. Go figure. I swear. Sorry, people from Houston. You guys got pretty buildings. Come on now. Come on now. Why'd you tear that down? Look, really. Okay. Alright. Person number 2 you don't want to punch in the face. Horatio Alger, who gives hope to young little boys through his novels. Look at the title of some of these. Strive and Succeed. Hell yes. So, he is basically promoting this whole notion of individualism. Rugged individualism in particular, where, if you're down on your luck, you can rise above that. And the characters in his novels are all people who, have not had it easy in life, but with a stroke of luck and perseverance and hard work, they're able to turn around their situation and become wealthy beyond their means. He's basically writing about like Andrew Carnegie and people like that, but since it's targeting young boys, I mean, he's essentially giving new generations hope that, yeah, they can achieve these things. So, although this whole notion of rags to riches wasn't exactly widespread, and Carnegie was like the exception to the rule, and actually embodied this, it's still, nonetheless, the hope survives. And that is truly the important thing. Because even people like Thomas Edison, as well, were born not wealthy, and again, through hard work and perseverance and, well, his inventions, he was able to amass a lot of money and a lot of notoriety. So, speaking of inventions, look at the amount of patents that we have coming out of the Gilded Age. I mean, check that out. Before 1860, we're talking market revolution and first industrial revolution. So if you wanted a comparison of inventions between the two industrial revolutions, Gilded Age wins hands down. I mean, check that out. And one of the inventions leading the way at this time is going to be something you guys use every freaking day, even in class. Come on now. I know you guys are using your phone in class. Seriously. Seeing you guys look down at your phone all the time. Yeah. Your teachers know. But anyways, Alexander Graham Bell is going to invent the telephone. And that's the first like rudimentary model of it. And check out his patent sketch. It looks like something somebody who's like 6 would like develop. But hey, it worked. He got this invention patented in 1876. And by 1892, he's already making the first long-distance telephone call. I mean, yeah, you gotta start off like small and, just be more regional based, but dude, the long-distance telephone call, that's pretty impressive by the end of the century. So, honestly, this invention is going to be so revolutionary. It's going to transform society much like the way the telegraph did. Because, I mean, the telegraph was able to transmit information over long distances in a matter of minutes. Now you've got this whole opportunity to hear someone on the other end of the line. Imagine how cool that is. Like, I don't know if you guys even have anything in comparison to this now. Your parents, though, could compare this to, like, video chatting and stuff. Like, that was freaking revolutionary when that came out. Like, people were all over that. So, yeah. Me being part of the older generations here now, guys, I mean, yeah. That blew our minds. So, but anyways, this is an invention that people grab hold of, and I mean, it revolutionizes communication. Another invention that revolutionizes communication is going to be the typewriter. Because when you think about it, now authors and writers and such have a means to quickly produce their work. It's no longer handwritten manuscripts that they're submitting to publishers. They're typing these things out now. So, Christopher Sholes is the one who develops the modern typewriter in 1867. And, believe it or not, Remington, like the shotgun company, actually makes typewriters. So, yeah, Remington is going to help sell this device. And you can see here on these ads right here, Remington is pushing the typewriter. So, authors like Mark Twain are going to embrace this new invention and use it to produce novels. This really is truly a great invention for communication. Because think about it, guys. Without the typewriter, we wouldn't have our modern day keyboards on our laptops and such. And you guys wouldn't have the ability to text either. Because, I mean, essentially, your phone could, you text through your phone. I mean, that's basically evolved typing, essentially. So without those two inventions, guys, come on now. You wouldn't have your modern day cell phone. Seriously. But another interesting thing about the typewriter is that it's going to open up jobs for women. Women are going to finally get to break out of the domestic role a bit to work in the office space. And this was revolutionary because the secretaries back in the day were men. They weren't women. We didn't have that stereotypical notion of secretaries until this time, when women are taking typewriting classes at the local YMCA and stuff. And they are coming into becoming secretaries. So, yeah, getting women out of the house. That's a revolutionary thing back then. And it is a step forward towards achieving more equality, because now women are working alongside men in the office space and earning a better paycheck. So this is the first white-collar job, essentially, in the office space that is available to women. Of course, women were becoming teachers at this time and other white-collar jobs like that, but this one in particular, in the office space, is important. So here's another invention that helps out with our modern day print media, which is the Leno Type. And this helps mass produce printed media because now you've got this full functioning kind of keyboard thing that stamps out the text on these metal plates. And this helps to revolutionize printing. So it's kind of Gutenberg style in a way, where the impressions are made on these metal plates, and then of course the ink is poured over them. And with the rotary press that we talked about before, it quickly runs the paper through on top of these linotypes. So again, the rise of print media is definitely taking hold during the Gilded Age. But probably one of the most important inventions is going to be the light bulb. And this helps us harness the power of electricity. So, of course, there's some people who have, been dabbling in electricity before in history, right? Benjamin Franklin did electrical experiments with his lightning rod. Michael Faraday with the electromagnetic induction, passing the magnet through a coil of wire, right? Thomas Edison will build a DC current electric generator. His counterpart, Nikola Tesla, will do the AC electrical system. So we see a lot of people delving into, harnessing the power of electricity. And during the Gilded Age, we're going to see basically the current wars take place. And this is this competition between Edison and Tesla and their competing systems of AC and DC. George Westinghouse is on the side of Tesla, and he helps to finance Tesla's AC model. On the side of Thomas Edison, however, is J.P. Morgan, and his money helps Edison develop the DC system. So the current wars take place, and spoiler alert, guys, actually Tesla and Westinghouse win a contract at Niagara Falls, thanks to what they've done by impressing the world at the World's Fair in Chicago, and by, basically outbidding Edison and J.P. Morgan. But in the end, however, J.P. Morgan's money and just sheer might wins out in the day, and he is able to drive Westinghouse out of the electrical business because he threatens to tie him up in the court and bankrupt him in the process. So in the end, the big winner is going to be JP Morgan, because even he shoves out Edison and absorbs his company, and names it General Electric. So there's a movie recently about this. It's called The Current War. So you can check it out. It'll tell you more about what you need to know. And also, you can check out The Men Who Built America. That, as well, has a section on the current war. So, if you're into that stuff. I know a lot of people are into Tesla, so. Okay, speaking of Edison, though. Edison becomes famous first, alright? Tesla did work for Edison. So, Edison's coming up with a ton of inventions. I mean, inventions like the phonograph, also the motion picture camera. You know, we got things like that going on. And, I mean, those inventions in themselves are revolutionary, right? Because, I mean, that basically makes it possible for modern-day recordings of sound and video. So, yeah, totally famous inventions there. Tesla, I mean, we know the kind of stuff that he developed. Of course, the AC generator, the Tesla coil, like, yeah, many other things. So, essentially, I mean, this is going to be an age where we're going to see a ton of inventions developed, and really, yeah, electricity is going to steal the show here. Because, I mean, look at this image right here. I want to say this is Coney Island. I need to look it up for sure because I can't really read the caption on here, but look at how lit up that is. And, I mean, think about this invention, though. Now that we have the light bulb and we harness the power of electricity, that opens up so many doors and avenues for business and for people. Because now people can light their homes with electricity. No longer do you have to run the risk of like candles and like kerosene. Or fire, right? So employers can use the power of electricity to increase working hours and therefore increase production of their product. So, I mean, this sort of technology is definitely going to pave the way, and it's going to continue to affect people, well, hell, even today. I mean, how much does it really suck when the lights go out and you have no power? Like, really? Yeah, it devastates us, right? So, yeah, electricity is important, and essentially light from light bulbs. So, let's go ahead and talk about another important invention, or rather innovation, and it's how we turn iron into steel. So, we prefer steel because it's stronger, it's more flexible, doesn't break very easily, whereas iron, it oxidizes, it corrodes, it's brittle over time. So, steel, however, was very, very expensive to produce, and nobody had quite perfected the process of cheaply manufacturing steel, quality steel. So, this is where people like Andrew Carnegie are going to step in, and Henry Bessemer from England. Now, Henry Bessemer develops his Bessemer steel process, which essentially he does just that. I mean, he makes steel a lot faster, a lot cheaper, a lot easier. And Andrew Carnegie catches wind of this. He goes back to the British Isles, right? And he sees Henry Bessemer's process of producing steel, and he brings that process over to the United States, and his steel mills are going to produce so much steel for the country. It makes Carnegie one of the wealthiest men in America during the Gilded Age. I mean, at one point he was wealthier than Rockefeller. So, yeah, Carnegie Steel, harnessing this whole idea of the Bessemer steel process is going to transform the country, because now we have a mode of mass producing steel to help build our railroads, our bridges, our skyscrapers, and yes, even our ships now, because now we are moving towards steel ships in your more modern sense. So, I mean, look at how much steel we're producing during the Gilded Age. I mean, look at that. In 1870, before we brought over the Bessemer process, I mean, Great Britain was still leading the show. By 1890, the Bessemer process is already here in the United States. Carnegie is already producing steel, you know, and we're the leading producers of steel. And by the time World War I is going to start rolling around, the United States is freaking king for steel around the world. So, I mean, yeah, we produce millions of tons of steel by the time World War I comes around. So, it is going to be one of our leading exporters as well. Well, exports. I mean, yeah, it goes without saying. Steel is very important to this country. So, we're going to shift gears momentarily. Or rather, no, I'm going to save this off for the next lecture because this is actually a very important topic to talk about. And it's going to be labor unions. So we're going to cut this one short today, guys, because some of the other ones ran long, especially like the first, well, 2. So, all right, guys, we will do part 4 of Gilded Age when it comes to industrialism and the workers and what made us, you know, the perfect place to industrialize at this time with our next video. So till then, guys, I will see you later.